This ain't no echo chamber. We're unlocking any chain. The devil's advocate speaking, cutting through the fog. Let us explain. Yeah.
Pull up, turn the volume, let the bass ignite. Devil's advocates, that's the channel. Together we fight. They ain't here to echo what the masses preach. They challenge beliefs, putting truth within reach. Flip the script, reverse the lens, ain't no fear to provoke. Unpopular opinions, watch the stagnant water smoke. They dissect the narratives, poke holes in the facade. Sharpening the mind, ain't no truth they'll disregard.
This ain't no echo chamber. We're unlocking any chain. Devil's advocate speaking, cutting through the fog. Let us explain.
See the description hit hard, that's the blueprint to code. Not everyone likes it, but that's the path they strode. Challenging beliefs, that's the mission, the aim. Flipping tables on conventional, fanning intellectual flame. Stepping opposing view, not for conflicts embrace, but to sharpen the blade of truth. Leave no logical trace of error or bias or thoughts that just float. They dig to the core, let the arguments bloat with substance and reason, not just empty retort. They building up thinkers, a mental fortress of thought.
This ain't no echo chamber. We're unlocking any chain. Devil's advocate speaking, cutting through the fog. Let us explain.
You don't go by always being right, that's a stagnant pool. Growth comes from questioning, breaking every rigid rule. Honest conversations, bold questions, a few uncomfortable facts. They lay it all bare, no turning back, no looking back. Seeking clarity or good debate, either way you win. They push you to understand where your own thoughts begin. So hit that subscribe button, let the knowledge unfurl. The devil's advocates, changing your whole world. Yeah, it might make you squirm, but that's how you transcend. Listen to the devil's advocates till the very end.
Peace.
Ladies and gentlemen, do you want to know why I'm here today? It's not because I want to give you a pep talk or because I want to make you feel good about yourselves. No, I'm here to tell you the truth.
Hey there, welcome to Friday night's show, and I'm a little pre-funking now before the Discord invite after dark party. Sometimes I do that, most of the time I do that with the after dark party, but I don't necessarily hang in there for a super long time. Sometimes the weekend drains on me. But anyways, I've already got the parental advisory warning on the corner because as Friday comes, I get a little bit more loose, as if that's not possible. I already dropped a few bad language, and I just wanted to say welcome. Thank you for coming in and being loyal to the show. It's great to see everybody tonight. We got Penny, of course. She was the first one to make it. Penny has got a record for being the first one in a lot lately. Pamela Smith. Oh, what do we got from Pamela? She said, I'm actually on my way now to go see Freaky Friday with my daughters. Funny, I named this show Freaky Friday. We'll have to catch the replay. Oh, well, I guess she's probably already gone before I caught that invite. Festive, good to see you back. Festive used to be super, super active, kind of went away for a while. Now she's getting back in the swing of things. She's a mod on my channel. So thanks for coming in, Festive, and we'll get you back up to speed with all the minions here shortly. We've already added you to some extra channels that you didn't have a little bit ago. So that's that. Let's take a look. Adina Sites finally made it to a live. when you say finally, it seems like I see your name a lot, but it must be in chat. So when you say you finally made it to a live, keep in mind, I tell Robin, I'm going to give her the microphone in just a moment because Robin's backstage waiting patiently for me to give her a microphone. I tell her we need to pay attention to anybody who says, I finally made a live. I want to make sure if you have any comment, question, or concern, we're going to highlight that, especially for your first time. So be careful what you say, because more than likely I'm going to highlight it if you say something after I read this. So there you go. You've been warned. So Robin, I'm going to get you the microphone. Are you there, Robin?
I am here. Hey, how's everybody?
Cool. Very, very cool. So for those who are not familiar, and most of you are, Robin helps me out with moderation to make sure that when I get long-winded, because I know that's never really a thing where I get long-winded on something. But if I get long-winded on something and I'm not breathing and I'm just going at 1,000,000 miles an hour, sometimes she will honk. By the way, Robin, I found out that StreamYard, which I use to stream this stuff, is adding a bunch of sounds. There's like horns and stuff you can do. I don't know if it's something that only I can do as the host, because that's exactly what I wanted you to have. There's some kind of horn that you could click, and apparently that's been added to StreamYard. So take a look around if you do while we're on, and honk a horn if you find something. But they added that new feature. I just haven't found exactly where it's at. I think it's in called the media assets if you have access to that area.
Okay.
What else do we have going on? Let's take a look. I'm still saying hi to people in the room. And be sure to tell me where you're at. Essie, thank you for coming in. I'm breathing. Thank you for reminding me that sometimes I need to take a breath. And Kimberly, a mod in the house as usual. Kimberly, don't ban Festive. Festive's a mod. She's got a little mod wrench by her name. So a lot of people haven't seen Festive lately, and it's easy for my, like, who the hell is this? Why is she showing up? So make sure we're all good to each other. Crisis Kathy. Hi, everyone. Hey, I got to figure out how to pronounce it. Is it crisis or is it? Yeah, crisis? Kathy. Okay. So thank you for showing up. I'll figure, no, you will tell me phonetically how to say that, and then I will hopefully never get it wrong again. And Dina Sites, we got that. Hey, DA. Remember, I'm waiting for you to come up with some kind of question so I can throw your name out there in a highlight. 1-1. Oh my God, aren't you on a cruise? Aren't you on? You're in the middle of the ocean. How do they even have cell coverage? Oh yeah, satellite. A satellite, I guess, gets that's a dumb question. Satellite can get you access anywhere you are in the world, even in the middle of an ocean. Thanks for checking in from the ocean, by the way. That cruise ship looks badass. And that elephant picture that you sent in Discord of the towels, my wife said, yeah, that's a thing on cruise ships. I'm like, God dang it. I'm still on my bucket list wanting to go on a cruise. I've been wanting to be on a cruise ship for forever. I don't know why. It's a small bucket list thing, but I've been wanting to do it for a long time. And she's like, yeah, that's a thing on a lot of cruise ships. I'm like, that's the coolest freaking thing ever. Like every day she got a different animal. So very cool. Nana, Cal finally caught alive. There we go. Robin, pay attention. Pay attention. We got new people in the live. So if you see anything that they say, we got to highlight them, make sure they get their questions answered. Joni, hey everyone. Welcome to the show. Leah, I've seen Leah's name. Hey DA from High Den and the Minions. Fantastic. And Teresa, that's a newer name, isn't it? Or not? Shit, I would hate to say somebody's new if they're like, I've been here since day one, motherfucker. You will remember my name. All you have to do is that to me one time, and I'll be so embarrassed. I probably will never forget it ever again. All right, what else? Are we almost caught up? Nana Cal, we got that. Kim Martin, hey, welcome to the show. Thank you for checking in. Again, tell me your location. I love knowing where people are calling in from or watching from all over the states and all over the country, literally. So I love that. I would highlight Robin, but Robin's on the microphone. You get enough airtime, so it's all good. Let's see what else. Teresa is saying hi to Robin. There we go. And Penny is visiting Boise, Idaho. So that's very cool. I'll be driving through Boise, Idaho in just a little bit less than a week in days. I'll be driving through Boise in days on my way to CrimeCon. Holy crap. All right. So I think we're caught up with, new comments. Okay. I lied. Bambino. Hey, Seattle here. Welcome to Seattle. I got my Seattle Kraken shirt on. I was gonna wear my merchandise. I got new merchandise. By the way, people who have ordered hoodies, sweaters, pullovers, that merchandise is sitting behind me on a table. It looks fantastic. I'm going to start shipping those out, my wife and I, very soon. We waited for some tissue paper because some people ordered more than one piece of merchandise, and we wanted to buy a bigger piece of tissue paper to wrap it around and make it look nice and pretty before we ship it out. So that should come in a day or two, and then we'll start shipping that stuff out. What else do we have here in the show? Me Girl, hello from Maine. Thank you from Maine. Kimberly's in Dallas, Texas. That's amazing. I love it when the locations come in. 20 minutes north of Boston. That is a great description. I'm in some place. You'll never know the name of it, but it's 20 minutes north of Boston. Fantastic. That's great. Caro, welcome into the show. Nana Cal, Queensland, Australia. Wow, it's 11 a.m. here on Saturday morning. You're time warping our ass because I'm on Friday. You're on Saturday. Give me the lottery numbers for tomorrow so I can win this thing. That'd be amazing. CrimeCon's coming up. People would like to go to that. Let's see. Maureen Edwards, L.A. Ready for my 1 hour commute home listening to Devil's Advocates. That's amazeballs. L.A. That's very cool. All right. What else do we got? We're almost caught up. Yeah. Can't wait. Leah's got a hoodie on order. Yeah, I've got it. I've got it right behind me. Got it right behind me. And so we'll get going into the show here in just a second. Dina, hey, you can catch me anywhere near Idaho. I can't wait to get your merch. Oh, yes, yeah, I could almost deliver it in person. If you were anywhere along my route going through Boise, you could catch it in person. Anyways, Iowa, Janet from Iowa. Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm in your fridge, hungry now. What? You're in my fridge. San Diego,
Festive is always
California.
lurking in people's homes.
Carol's from San Diego. That's awesome. I didn't want to put Boston because I'm in the suburbs, not the same as fun as Boston. Oh, I see. So suburbs of Boston. I get it. I was in the suburb. You know, it's funny. I lived in Everett, Washington. I considered Everett a suburb of Seattle, but it really isn't a suburb. It's long enough and far enough away to be, but it was like 30-minute commute on a good day to get into downtown Seattle where I work. So I considered it a suburb of Seattle, but it's its own thing. All right. So I'm behind your curtain. Shit. I got a curtain behind me too. That would be a little bit creepy, but very cool because you could pick up your merchandise unless you didn't buy merchandise. And then, well, we'll work. I'll charge you something. All right. Let's get going. So for those of you who are not aware, first of all, I'm a little bit looser on the weekend. I'm pretty loose all the time, but on the weekend, especially much. This is my website up here. I'm going to take Elizabeth off the screen, even though it would be nice to give you a lot of credit all night long. South Carolina, Joni, thank you for checking in from South Carolina. That's awesome. So anyways, this is my website, The Devil's Advocates. You may notice there's something new, a little bit of surprise. There may be something new. Idaho 4, Luigi Manjone, Lisk, Long Island serial killer, and what's the hell is this? Sean Mikey Steins? Who the hell is that? Oh my God. I was talking to Pete Altieri from Murder Metal Mayhem, and he's like, I got to cover this, Mickey Steins case. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? And then he reminded me, I saw the video of the sheriff that shot a judge in the judge's chambers just recently. This wasn't too long ago. I remember seeing that video. Then he started to tell me the story behind it, and I just about peed myself. I'm like, if that is not a story for the Devil's Advocates, I don't know what is. We're talking about people in the jail checking out female inmates from the prison, like library books, and taking them home for the night. Women that were assaulted in the judge's chamber, and yet he still wanted to serve over the case of that person when they sued. It is nutbaggish. And the sheriff who shot, it was apparently a big, huge sex ring. I told you Friday was a little loose. I can't even get it. I will get into it a little bit later on the show. I will get into it a little bit more later on the show. Now, here's the thing. I already have my hands full juggling 3 cases, Idaho 4, Luigi Manjone, and Rex Heuermann in the Gilgo Beach. So why would I even consider picking up a 4th? Well, this one just absolutely freaking is right in my wheelhouse. Massive amounts of police corruption, judge corruption, possibly all the way up to governors. Who knows how many people are involved in this sex ring, checking out inmates, giving them lighter sentences in exchange for favors. Ridiculous amounts of craziness in that case. And so I could not resist peeking into it. So we'll peek into it a little together. And if there's interest in your part, we'll keep on this. I guess I'm going to keep on it whether you're interested or not. But the point being is that's a thing. Now, Idaho 4, we don't have a lot on tap for Idaho 4 tonight, but that case is not done. We're still what, 8 days, 10 days away, maybe 8 days away from the appeal window closing. I do believe the appeal window is going to close on Brian Kohberger without him appealing. But of course, as you watch the court documents come out and more crime scene photos come out, all it does is lead to more questions. Unfortunately, those questions will never be satisfied, more than likely, because there will be no trial. There will be no trial, and that'll be the end of it. And unfortunately, as much as I hate to say it, but they're already setting up a scenario in which Brian Kohberger is probably going to get extinguished in prison. Unfortunately, that just seems to be the route we're going. They're already laying the groundwork that people are taunting him, harassing him, that his days are numbered. And indeed, I won't be surprised, unfortunately, if that happens, because, and I say unfortunately, because let me remind you, if Brian Kohberger indeed is guilty, and I know a lot of you say, how could you even say if he's guilty? He pled guilty. Understand, in this country, people plead guilty to things all the time that they didn't do it. That's why we have things like the Innocence Project, which bails people out who pled guilty to crimes they didn't commit. It happens all the time. In Brian Kohberger's case, there's a possibility he didn't do it at all. There's a possibility that he did it and he didn't do it alone. That's the more likely scenario, in my opinion. Brian Kohberger had helpers. He was assisted in that multiple ways. And there are people who are walking because America wants the easy answer. They got the boogeyman. He's going to go away. And if somebody kills him in prison, yay for us, we win. Unfortunately, that's going to be a sad day when people who are involved in those murders get to walk free because you took the easy answer. So, but I'm going to still keep fighting that fight. I'm going to keep fighting that fight as much as we can. Hope that an investigation gets opened up into that unfair trial. Brian Kohberger had no chance in that trial, no chance whatsoever. It was a sham of a case, and it's just shown to be worse and worse every day. Let me make sure I'm not missing anything from the chat. You got anything wrong?
Michelle wants to know what you think of the prosecution using Luigi's mail log as in the argument to execute him.
Yes, I've got that on tap. I will be covering that very briefly coming up. So we'll get to that in a minute. I don't know that I would characterize it per se. So let's talk about Luigi Manjone. So I told you about how Idaho 4 is kind of going along. Let's talk about Luigi Manjone now. Multiple things happened this week in Luigi Manjone's case. I'll pull them up on screen, I think, if I can pull this off briefly. This is what she's talking about, Michelle's talking about right here, which is a response from the United States District Court, Southern District of New York. It's responding to essentially an argument that Karen Agnifilo made. So for those, I'll be brief. I swear, Robin, I actually couldn't pull this off, I think. Luigi Manjone is accused of shooting Brian Thompson in downtown Manhattan on before an investor conference on December 4th. Days later, he was arrested in Altoona, Pennsylvania. The case is going forward, and Luigi Manjone is on trial for the murder of Brian Thompson in both the state of New York as well as the Southern District of New York. That's the U.S. government versus Luigi Manjone in the Southern District of New York. Now, that gets a little confusing. By the way, there's a third case against Luigi Manjone that's in Pennsylvania. That's for providing false identification to a police officer, among things like weapons charges for having a gun on him that he wasn't supposed to have. Those charges have nothing to do directly with the murder. I shouldn't say nothing to do because they're just not directly related to the murder. They're indirectly related to the murder. This is the big case, the state and the federal government. Particularly the federal government. Why? Because the federal government wants to execute Luigi Manjone with a capital murder charge. Now, here's where it gets nuanced. Karen Agnifilo fired back and basically said, how is it? So in order to execute someone, in order for the federal government to execute Luigi Manjone, they must prove aggravating factors. I'm trying to boil this down as a simple language as I can. One of the things that I like to do on this channel is like to educate you about the law and how the law works. And by the way, I've reached out to Ali Benevento, but Ali Benevento, I think, has two different court cases that she's got going right now. And she's been on court TV a lot lately. And Ali and I communicate less than we've ever have. She's still super cordial to me. I still believe we're going to get Ali Benevento on and all those good things coming up in the future. But she is super busy and it's harder than ever to get her attention. So I'm trying to fix my light. I got a light in the corner that's freaking, there we go. Got a little
Haley?
Huh?
Joni sent a super chat.
Oh, fuck. Joni? Thank you. Thank you kindly. Very, very, very much. Thank you for the gift. An Austin Drummond's case is wild. Yes. Let's stay back with Luigi. Thank you for the gift. We will get back to that later. So In the state or in the federal government, in order to execute Luigi Manjone, they have to provide aggravating factors. Why does this lead? So in other words, murder alone isn't good enough to do the execution. They have to, or to execute Luigi Manjone, they have to have some aggravating factors tied on. What Karen Agnifilo did was he said, how is it that Luigi Manjone's murder rises to anything larger than the 300 and something other murders committed in New York last year? Why is it the federal government isn't seeking to kill anyone except for Luigi Manjone in this case, because it was a CEO of a major healthcare company? That's not an aggravating factor. And in her letter, Karen Agnifilo basically demanded or requested, okay, that's a better word. She requested that the judge tell the prosecution, the federal government's prosecution, to list what it is they think are the aggravating factors. Now, here's the horrible thing for those who are Luigi Manjone supporters. I think that's the best way to say it. Oh, Crystal White dropped a super chat kind of thing on me. Thank you so much. What a great way to go into the weekend. People are giving me gifts, flying out the window. That is amazing. Thank you so much, Crystal White. Let me get back to Luigi, but thank you so much. It does mean a lot, especially right now while my channel is kind of like in a limbo state. We're working on fixing some things on the back end, but that's amazing. It helps out so much. All right. So Karen Agnifilo essentially said, please tell us what the aggravating factors are. This huge letter, 22 pages, as you can see, from the prosecution to the judge was essentially, let me boil it down to you. So I got highlighted parts, and I thought about breaking this down in long form, but I realized it was just unnecessary, because here's the summary. It can be said like this: court case after court case after court case says we do not have to give you any aggravating circumstances. You have more than enough information already about why we're seeking to put him to death, and that's enough. And they cited a million court cases. And to be fair, while I did not read the court cases, they not only listed court cases, they listed appellate court decisions that said the same thing. The prosecution is not required to give Karen Agnifilo or Luigi Manjone all of the aggravating factors. And in fact, it's kind of funny, because what the prosecution said is, we don't have to give you that information, but oh, by the way, we did give you that information. So they did actually spell out what their aggravating factors were. They told her what it was. Her response saying you needed to be more specific was a little bit of posturing on her part. And by the way, I love Karen Agnifilo, so don't think that I'm trying to badmouth Karen Agnifilo. This is the way these legal fights happen. It's a game of chess. It's a back and forth. They file shit back and forth, and that's the way it works. So for those of you who think, I heard somebody tell me, oh my God, this letter looks bad for Luigi Manjone. No, sir. No, ma'am. It does not look bad for Luigi Manjone. This is exactly what you should expect from them, which is to say, look, we've already told you what the aggravating factors are, and no court has ever said that we have to give you more than what we did. And here's all the court cases that say we don't need to give you anything more than what we did. At the end of the day, it changes nothing. It changes nothing. So relax. It's just posturing from both sides. The judge is probably going to rule in favor of the prosecution on this, in the sense that he's going to say, no, Karen, we don't have to provide. They do not have to provide. Now, if the judge said we'd have a problem. Why? Because that would show impartiality, or that would show partiality on the judge's thing. The judge isn't supposed to take sides with the prosecution, but more than likely the judge is going to say, look, they made a strong argument there. They don't. See, not we. I'm screwing up. That fucking judge better not say we. The prosecution does not have to provide any more information. They provided case law where they don't have to provide you any more information. They're good. Again, no we, because he's not on the side of the prosecution, even though most times judges are like former prosecutors, and there is a little bit of a love relationship there. But the point being is that at the end of the day, this is not a big deal. Now, Michelle asked about the fact that they used Luigi Manjone's letter log against him in this. And I'll try to find that real quick. It was a footnote at the bottom of a page. It wasn't even part of the main argument. So I have it highlighted. And I apologize, by the way, for those of you who are not familiar with the Friday show, I do a little bit of everything. Now, sometimes during the week, it'll be all Luigi Manjone, it'll be all Idaho 4, it'll be all Rex Heuermann, so that if you don't want to follow all the cases, you can just watch the week that you want. But Friday night is kind of a little mixture of everything. I'm calling it Freaky Friday. I'm going to cover new cases like Mickey Steins. We're going to talk about Sheriff Steins and the shooting of the judge. I shot the sheriff. Only it was the sheriff shooting the judge, so it's kind of backwards. But anyways, where is it? Footnote, right there, right there. All right. So in their footnotes, the prosecution pointed out that wanted CEO posters and other threats emerged after Manjone's arrest. NBC News cited some article and blah, 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 blah. On July 28th, Shane Tumara. By the way, this fucking pisses me off. So you remember the shooter in New York that went in? It was supposed to be related to the NFL. He had grievances against the NFL, and he went into a thing and he shot a cop and he shot multiple people and he killed a few people and then he died in the scene. I think he shot himself. Was a self-inflicted wound? I think it might have been. That had absolutely fucking nothing, pardon my French, to do with Luigi Manjone. And yet some people in the media said, oh my God, is this shooting inspired by Luigi Manjone? You are a moron if you think that shooting had anything to do with Luigi Manjone. The shooting of Brian Thompson more than likely has everything to do with health insurance in this country. It has nothing to do with a grievance against the NFL. There is no comparison to those two shootings. In addition, the shooter who shot Brian Thompson, in my opinion, took steps to make sure that innocent people weren't targeted or hit. That shooter went in and shot innocent people. There is no connection whatsoever. But the prosecution in this case, part of their dirty tricks is to link every shitty thing in America to Luigi Manjone and say, see, he's inspiring violence. I will guarantee you this guy was not inspired by Luigi Manjone, and it has fucking nothing to do with Luigi Manjone. It's complete horseshit. And they're adopting a term called Luigiism, I think is what they're calling it, saying that there's this movement now where people are taking cues from Luigi to go kill people in this country, calling it Luigiism. That's horseshit. That's being made up by the prosecution to trump up the idea of an aggravating circumstance. That's the part that pisses me off. You got my fire up. Thank you very much. You got my fire up for the weekend. So that's the part that pisses me off. That shooting has nothing to do with Brian Thompson. Tomorrow shot and killed 4 people, including an off-duty police officer, an executive of a financial service firm, and a security guard, and he injured others, including an employee of the National Football League. Like Manjone, my ass, there's no fucking connection between those shootings. Anyways, tomorrow left behind a piece of evidence for investigators to find, blaming the NFL and football for causing chronic traumatic encephalopathy. Now, one might be in some gosh darn stretch of your imagination say that Luigi Manjone had a notebook talking about health issues that he had, and this guy had some health issues, and therefore because they both held health issues, it's the same kind of shooting. My ass. There is no connection between these two things, and it pisses me off. Almost immediately, members of the public sympathetic to the defendant touted his actions as laudable continuation of the defendant's philosophy. That is horseshit. No one did that, in my opinion, but the media. The media is the one that tried to say, is this inspired by Luigi? I honestly do not think the American public, I swear, I have a lot of people who talk about Luigi Manjone on a regular basis. Nobody said to me that they thought that, yay, this guy is just like Luigi. No one said that because no one thinks that shooting has anything to do with Luigi. So that's the media and that's the prosecution trying to make a movement out of something and blame every shooting in America on Luigi Manjone as somehow he inspired everybody to go shoot everybody. And that's horseshit. Tracking Luigiism online, that's what they're calling it, tracking Luigiism online, according to the City Journal, blah, 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 blah. And then we get to this thing that has been asked about. Following his arrest, the defendant openly cultivated supporters. He set up a website in which he has directly addressed his supporters, and which includes a section for FAQ with questions like, may I send him items like books? Can I send Luigi photos? What else can I send Luigi? At LuigiManjoneInfo.com. The same website contains scanned images of an index prepared by the defendant himself, exhaustively cataloging all of the supportive letters that he's received. These are actions for which the defense needs no disclosure because they are the actions of the defendant himself. Again, like Michelle is saying, they're trying to suggest that Luigi Manjone is trying to make a movement in America because he communicates with people in a letter log and has a website. By the way, let's spend a moment with Luigi Manjone and look at that website. LuigiManjoneInfo.com. This is the website set up by his legal team. By the way, if you want to come up to speed on Luigi Manjone's case, we're going to move past this and get to Rex Heuermann for a moment, and then we're going to get into the news for the weekend, and then we're going to drink, and we're going to go to the After Dark party. I'm going to take a drink right now. Anything going on, Robin?
Nope, we're good.
All right. So on the website, LuigiManjoneInfo.com, put together by his attorneys. There's a litigation section right here. This is the litigation calendar, as you can see, the next court date coming up is September 16th. Now, I already told people, by the way, because there are people in my channel who are planning on going to New York or being in New York and being at that court case 9/16. That court date may not happen due to recent events. So just be careful and get travel insurance if you're planning on going to that. They may postpone that court appearance. We'll see. Then for that is in the people of Manjone. That's the state of New York going against Luigi Manjone. That's happening. That's a scheduled appearance that's been on the docket for a long time. It may or may not happen. They may reschedule it. I don't know. Then December 5th is when the federal case has its next actual court appearance. At the end of December, at the beginning of December, at the end of this year, the federal government plans on setting a timeline for when they're going to try Luigi Manjone. So that's what we anticipate happening in December. And then the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, that is the state of the gun charges and the false ID. That has it's to be determined. There is no date on that one. They are dragging their heels. That is a disgusting display of non-action in Pennsylvania. They should have ruled on the arrest in Pennsylvania a long time ago. They don't want to rule on it because this case is monumental, worldwide attention on it. And they don't want to rule about the fact that that arrest was illegal and the search and seizure of Luigi Manjone was illegal. And they don't want to rule on it. So they're going to have to rule on it and basically know that they're ruling incorrectly if they say it was legal, or they're going to have appeals up their ass, but they just want to drag your feet and not rule on it because they know it's a problem. All right. I'm going to eat on camera. How about that? So where was I going with this? Well, pardon my French. FAQs. This is what the prosecution is complaining about. On the FAQ section of LuigiManjone.com, they've got all those things about how can I send him mail and how do I know that I'm getting mail from him? We were almost done with talking about Luigi, but I want to highlight one more thing that Karen Agnifilo wrote about, and that was what? Karen wrote a letter about mental health issues. Remind me of that, Robin, if I don't remember. All right, so here we go. There's a section here. How do I know Luigi is receiving my mail, right? And this is what they're talking about. This is what they're complaining about. Luigi Manjone keeps a letter log in his cell with his own handwriting, talking about how I'm overwhelmed by the support that I'm getting from people and blah, blah, blah. And by the way, I want you to know I read every single letter you guys send me. And so I'm going to keep this letter log and I'm going to put the first initial, last initial of the person who wrote me a letter, the last 2 digits of their zip code and the date that it was postmarked so that you know I got your letter. And he's been doing that for a fuck ton of time, pardon my French. I, however, in all of the cases that I do, I write letters to inmates, trying to get them to write back to me to give us a little insight to the man, but it's not always going to be a man. We'll eventually cover a woman as well, into the person behind the news. And so I've been writing to Luigi Manjone every single week since May, as I do to Rex Heuermann, as I do to Brian Koberger. And by the way, on Luigi Manjone's letter log, guess what? He's read several of my letters. I think, well, 2 for sure, maybe 3 now. So Luigi Manjone is getting my letters. Whether he'll write back or not, I don't know. But if you're a member only, for $2.99, you could be a member. And every single week, you can hear me read my letter to Luigi Manjone. And you can see when he writes back what his response will be for members only. All right. Let's talk about one more thing with Karen Agnifilo, and then we'll move on to Rex Heuermann a little bit. Karen Agnifilo's letter, recent letter, this was about mental health issues. I made a big video explaining. It's called 6 months. The missing 6 months may tell us everything, something to that effect, right? That video is when we first started this case. Generally speaking, if you're going to claim insanity or temporary insanity or some kind of mental health issue that caused you to commit a crime, generally speaking, you do that in the first 30 days. Because if your client has a mental health issue, you need to notify the courts right away that they're incapable of helping with their own defense. The fact that Karen Agnifilo was asking, for example, for Luigi Manjone to be given a laptop to help with his own defense and help go through discovery, because there's a massive amount of discovery in this case, suggested to me it was not possible that Karen Agnifilo is going to go for an insanity defense or anything related to mental health. And I said that for a long time. The fact that it's well past 30 days and she's requesting a laptop, I don't see how she can maintain that he has some kind of mental health issue. Well, au contraire, I didn't realize, for example, that New York has this special circumstance that I think may be being considered, which is the extreme emotional disturbance, EED defense. What it says essentially is, if a person can show that they were having extreme emotional disturbance, and they were going down a bad depression cycle, and they made a momentary lapse of judgment because they were in an extreme downward spiral. It's also called a crime of passion. Festive's like, we need to talk. Who needs to talk? Me?
Her and Kimberly are talking about writing letters to BK.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I was like, oh shit, somebody's calling my ass out. We need to talk to you. You're full of shit. So anyways, let me break this down for you briefly because I did a whole big video about what the EED defense means. But basically, this letter from Karen Agnifilo, filed, as you can see, August 25th, states, we need a little bit more time to decide if we're going to use Criminal Procedure Law Section 250.10. That is the one that includes things like crime of passion or temporary insanity. I thought that was already a closed window. It is not. It is not. And so, one, I want to say, just because Karen Agnifilo filed this letter does not mean that they're going for that defense. I would argue every attorney wants to keep every option on the table as long as possible. But this indicates that the option is still on the table. And the reason it's on the table is because if Karen Agnifilo concedes that Luigi Manjone did the shooting, and again, this letter does not concede Luigi Manjone did the shooting. She's looking at all options. What she's saying is, we still haven't gone through all the discovery to see what happened in this case. But if she concedes that the case against Luigi Manjone is overwhelming, and that that they can't argue that he did it, then what's the next defense? Yeah, our guy did it, but here's why he did it, and get sympathy from a jury. Now, in an EE defense, and I told you I would try to wrap this up, and I'm not doing well at that. In an EED defense, you can mitigate second-degree murder to manslaughter. And it changes what could potentially be the rest of his life in prison to something as low as 5 years to a maximum of 25 years. So it's a major, major deal for Luigi Manjone if he can mitigate second-degree murder to a manslaughter charge, because maybe he did it, if that's their argument, maybe he did it, but you have to understand why he did it. And then he would get a chance to present to the jury why he went down that path and why he did it. And then if a jury finds that and again, here's the key, and I told you this on the long-form video, a jury doesn't have to say that a reasonable person would have done what Luigi Manjone would have done. What the jury has to decide is, if they were Luigi Manjone, do they see how he came to that conclusion? That's all they need to figure out. The jury does not have to say, I would have done the same thing. They just have to say, if I were Luigi Manjone and I knew what he was going through and the turmoil that he was going through and the things that he saw, if I saw those things, do I see that it's reasonable for him to have made that conclusion? And if they do, they could give him manslaughter instead of murder too. Now, before I move on, I want to remind you, Luigi Manjone faces murder 1, first-degree murder in New York State. And so they would have to first, what's going to have to happen from a legal perspective is Karen Agnifilo is going to have to get murder 1 taken off the table. So if she can argue successfully that first-degree murder is not acceptable and get it taken away, then Luigi Manjone is left with 4 counts, I believe, of second-degree murder. And the EED defense would allow him to mitigate those down to manslaughter and serve 5 to 25 years if a jury can be convinced that they understand how he got to the point of making that decision. So it's a long road, and it's a million moving parts. The state. So and keep in mind, here's what's really confusing from my understanding, and I'm not a lawyer, but I joke. I did sleep at a Holiday Inn last night, so that makes me qualified. But the point being, it's an old joke. It's an old campaign. If you haven't seen it, it is what it is. The point being is that I know a little bit about law, and I wish I had my attorney friends on to talk to me about right now. But in the federal government, the federal government doesn't charge you with first or second degree murder. Instead, what they do is they charge you with murder, and then they say if it has aggravating circumstances, then they can go for the death penalty. So it's not first degree murder. And so therefore that whole ball of wax is a whole different animal, which is why Karen Agnifilo is fighting on that previous letter we looked at. Tell us what your aggravating circumstances are, because she's trying to get the aggravating circumstances dealt with so they can say the federal government cannot use aggravating circumstances to execute Luigi Manjone. But in the state case, she has to also successfully argue that first degree murder is an overstatement, because in the state, the reason they're using first degree murder, as they're stating, I said I was going to move on from Luigi Manjone. I suck at this, Robin.
You do not. Now
Anyways.
you're fine.
In the state, the way that they got first degree murder is to say that Luigi Manjone did this in furtherance of an act of terrorism. Oh my God, I hope somebody doesn't bust my balls. Last time I did this, Michelle was like, hey, DA, you got this wrong. Because I stated that the federal government was using the terrorism charge. No, ironically enough, the state is the one charging Luigi Manjone with murder in furtherance of an act of terrorism. Anyways, that's what makes it a first degree murder charge. And believe me, Karen Nifolo is arguing, how the fuck is this an act of terrorism? It's one man that was shot. This is not a terrorist act. It's not like he blew up a building. It's one person that was targeted. So how does this rise to the level of terrorism? So she's fighting that. And if she's successful, she will get first degree murder removed because it doesn't rise to the level of terrorism. And I feel personally, Karen Nifolo has a fair chance of getting the terrorism charge removed. And if she does, that, in my opinion, is going to remove first degree murder, and it'll go down to second degree murder. And then she's got the EED defense to say, okay, it's second degree murder, but let me explain how Luigi Manjone was thinking. And if you understood how Luigi Manjone's thinking, maybe you can understand why he lost his mind temporarily and did this. That could be where we're going in that case. Enough of the legal analysis of Luigi Manjone. Any questions about that before we move on to Rex Heuermann? Festives gave me a shout out. You're amazing, Lee. Thank you so much. I appreciate that very much. One of the things I strive to do, and this is why we get attorneys on the show, is I like to break down the law as best I can, and I'll even get attorneys on here. And to be fair, I made a comment more than once to an attorney that said that they don't see it the way I do. What I said was, is there a way that Karen Agnifilo uses this case to put the American healthcare system on trial? And both the attorneys I had on, they're like, that's a bit of a stretch. I don't think any courts, and I even said, I agree. Like, at the moment that they try to say, here's why Luigi Manjone did it, putting the American healthcare system on trial, the prosecution's going to say, objection, Your Honor. The American healthcare system's not on trial. Luigi Manjone's on trial for shooting Brian Thompson. End of story. And I expect that a judge will uphold that. You're right. Sustained. This is not about the American healthcare system. Here's the caveat, though. Here's the part that I haven't asked Ali Benevento, my attorney friend, and others about since this came up, is if you use the EED defense. Didn't I fucking say I was done with Luigi Manjone and moving on to Rex Heuermann? Anyways. If she can argue that Luigi Manjone had a momentary crisis because he was going down the circling the drain of his mental thoughts, you're gonna have to explain to a jury. You have to explain to a jury why he was going there in his mind, and therefore you have to explain the American healthcare situation, because that's what caused Luigi. See what I'm saying? So in an essence, this is exactly how Karen Agnifilo would put the American healthcare system on trial, is to say, yeah, our guy did it, but you have to understand why he did it, because he felt powerless against a predatory system that denies claims for Americans and kills people every day. And he couldn't live with that people were dying every day because of a predatory system that was making money for their shareholders. Okay, I'm freaking done with Luigi Manjone for the moment. Rex Heuermann. What's going on in Rex Heuermann? Well, Rex Heuermann is the alleged serial killer. They originally called it the Gilgo 4 murders. Then it became 7 bodies. Then it became potentially 10 bodies. Then it became known as the Long Island serial killer, or LISK. And Rex Heuermann has been identified just recently in the last year or two, I think it's been 2 years now, as the Long Island serial killer. They think that he's the one that he's tied to 7 of the bodies. Ironically enough, the defense wants to try each one of those 7 murders separately. The prosecution wants to tie them all together to show how much this is a serial killer at work. So there's a battle going on there. We have a Fry hearing coming up in the case of Rex Heuermann, because Rex Heuermann's DNA, or not really his DNA, his family's DNA, believe it or not, they want to tie Rex Heuermann to some of the killings because his wife's hair or his daughter's hair was found at the crime scene. So what does that mean? Did his wife or his daughter do the murder? No, they're saying it's transfer DNA. Well, I don't know how transfer DNA works, because it doesn't work in Idaho, but that's a whole nother situation. I'm going to let that go. The point being is that I believe personally that that Rex Heuermann probably is not the same killer that killed all 7 of those bodies. Now, that's not to say I'm defending Rex Heuermann at all. What I'm saying is, for me, And it's the same thing that many documentaries have had. And by the way, I had an interview set up this week with a big documentarian who covered the same thing I'm going to tell you about, but that fell through a little bit because he's super, super effing busy. I think we're still going to do that interview. We're just going to do it a little bit in October instead of this month, because this month's gotten nuts for him. So I'm still feeling hopeful we're going to get that interview done. But the point being is that there's the belief that the person who dumps 4 bodies on Gilgo Beach in burlap sacks tied up and bound is not the same kind of killer who the other bodies were chopped up, dismembered, and spread across Long Island. They were different dumping zones and they were completely different MOs. And so one might argue the same killer is not doing both of those, but his DNA allegedly was found at those other crime scenes. So they're going to call him his. Now, the problem with that is that we have a Fry hearing coming up on September 3rd, where they're going to argue whether or not the science that links Rex Heuermann to these other bodies is good science. Is it good science? And so that's what the Fry hearing is about. It's all to determine whether or not the science. It's not about Rex Heuermann. It's about the science. Is the science good or not good to use the DNA that the science has produced against Rex Heuermann? And if you haven't heard already, let me tell you why, much like the Mickey Stein's case that I'm starting to get interested in now, why Rex Heuermann case gets me excited. So Gone Girls is a 3-part series on Netflix that talks about this case. Episode 1 was a little bit of a snooze fest, but you have to watch it if you're not familiar with if you're not familiar with Rex Heuermann and the Lisk case. You must watch Gone Girls episode 1 to get to the meat and potatoes, if you will, of episode 2 and 3. Episode 2 is when I lost my shit, because it talked about a potentially corrupt police officer who is promoted by a potentially corrupt district attorney, and they lay out the corruption of the district attorney and the police officer, and it is bad. So a corrupt police officer promoted to chief of police by a corrupt district attorney dismantled the task force looking into the serial killer killing women in New York City. And you have to ask why. And then you find out later on through attorneys like John Ray, who was hired to represent one of the families involved in this case. You find out that oh, I've got another gift that dropped. Woohoo! All right, Leah, thank you for dropping some memberships on people. By the way, I'll get back to that in a minute, explain what that means for you. But anyways, point being is that when we got to Jimmy Burke, who was in that thing, and freaking Chappie Boss is dropping bombs. Everybody's dropping bombs tonight. Super nice. Thank you. Let me get back to the point about this. So Jimmy Burke, chief of police, dismantled the task force looking into the serial killer. He sent the FBI on their way and told them, no, thanks. We have no interest in the FBI helping us solve this case. We're good. Thank you very much. And then you find out later on, John Ray, the attorney for Shannon Gilbert, the woman who ended up basically the search for Shannon Gilbert, a missing sex worker who called 911 in a panic saying that they're trying to kill me and ended up missing. In the search for Shannon Gilbert, they found the Gilgo 4 bodies, which then turned into 7 bodies, which then turned into potentially 10 bodies. And by the way, at some point, the prosecution admitted the district attorney, Ray Tierney, who's the district attorney, or the prosecutor in this case, he stated, we had to stop counting bodies because every single time we add a body, we have to come up with new discovery. So at some point we just decided, you know what? We know his body count is higher. We know it's higher, but we can only prosecute so many murders at a time. And we could be coming up with new bodies for a long time because he may have been killing for 30 years. This may be one of the most prolific killers in America when we're said and done, crazy enough. But the point being is that John Ray, representing the families of Shannon Gilbert, trying to find who killed Shannon Gilbert and what happened there. By the way, the police department said it was an accident. Horseshit. It wasn't an accident. She was murdered. That's what John Ray says, and that's what their families say. And so they've been looking for justice for Shannon Gilbert. Along the quest of that, it came out that John Ray found a sex worker who used to party with Jimmy Burke, the cop, who became promoted, and he did drugs with her, and he did prostitutes with, he used her as a prostitute. And guess who partied with Jimmy Burke and did drugs with the girls? Rex Heuermann, years ago. They were all into this big thing. Like Rex Heuermann may know cops. He may do drugs with cops. He may use prostitutes with cops. The cops have an attitude of who gives a shit about a dead hooker? It's a hooker. We don't give a shit. It's a hooker. And that's the attitude of some people in Suffolk County Police Department. So this case is enormous with police corruption all the way up to the district attorney attorney who went to jail. The police chief went to jail. Multiple people went to jail. Not necessarily directly related to the Long Island serial killer, but this case is nutballs. And if you're not interested, something's wrong with you. That case is going to be enormous. Next year, it's going to be a huge, huge case. And oh yeah. And did I tell you that I interviewed John Ray just recently? I interviewed John Ray. I've got it in the can. It's an hour and 20-minute interview. Robin, you saw the interview. What did you think of the interview?
Oh, it's incredible. You guys, oh man, wait till you see it. Just wait.
It's a great interview. He dropped some bombs. In my opinion, he dropped some bombs on that show that we have never heard. Leah, thank you for the super sticker. That's amazing. I think everybody is just super friendly tonight going into the weekend. How blessed is this? All right. But the point being is that, yeah, John Ray and I had a great discussion. He dropped some super bombs. We're holding off on premiering that interview with him and I because I didn't want to do it disservice, right? John Ray's interview needs to be seen by a lot of people. So we're going to premiere it at a little better time when everybody's back to school. We've got everybody back to school. People have more time. We're going to premiere it. And Birdie Bombshells, if you haven't seen Birdie and I go on, and I know that some of you are a little bit worried about Birdie because they're like, oh, Birdie's a conspiracy theorist. And in fact, that's one of the things we have to be careful. John Ray does not want to be portrayed as a conspiracy theorist. However, let me assure you, Birdie is a very, very smart individual, and he knows we're not going to be conspiratorial theory with John Ray. But John Ray and I and Birdie are going to get together on September 10th. We're going to premiere that interview that is already in the bag, and we're going to have open questions and answers, and John Ray is going to be there to answer your questions after you watch our interview. And you can open season ask all kinds of questions. So I highly recommend, as we finish up talking about Lisk tonight, go watch, if you haven't yet, the Gone Girls series, 3-part series on Netflix. You'll see John Ray on there. Also, absolutely watch the 7-part series on A&E or Prime Video by Joshua Zeman and Rachel Mills. They both worked together on this 7-part documentary about Lisk. That's where they talk about this is probably more than one serial killer. There's probably more than one serial killer. And now that documentary was done in 2016. So this is why I'm going to talk to Josh. Josh Zeman and I are setting up that interview to talk. And I'm going to ask Josh, has anything changed from your documentary? Now that we know, because at the time they filmed it in 2016, Rex Heuermann was not identified as the Long Island serial killer. Now that he has been identified, has anything changed on some of his theories that it might have been? And I don't even know if it was Josh's theory. He was simply chasing leads, and people were saying, yeah, this is more than one killer. And that's where Josh went. He went where the story went. But I want to talk to Josh, pick his brain a little bit and say, hey, now that Rex Heuermann has been identified, are you convinced it's 100% Rex Heuermann, or are some of those lingering questions still out there? Is this more than one killer? Maybe 3, maybe 4 killers. How many killers could be dumping bodies on Long Island? And at any given time, by the way, there are serial killers operating across this country all the time at any given time. It's a bigger thing than you think. All right. So let's talk about some gifts real quick. I know that Crystal White, I think it was she the one that, or Leah? No, Leah dropped memberships on people tonight. So let me explain how that works in case you missed out. In order to get a free membership, you need to have membership gifting turned on. And I don't think you can do it from your phone. I think you have to be on a PC. In the lower right corner, as you're watching this video, there should be a little icon that looks like a $sign. If you click on that, somewhere in the menu options is an option to allow yourself to receive free gifts. So if you didn't get one tonight, make sure you do this, because I have several regular supporters of my channel who like to gift people free memberships. And the way it works is it's no commitment on your part. You get free access to my member only area. And at the end of that, if you so choose, it's not automatically renewing. So you don't need to worry about, from what I understand, now correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's not automatically renewing. You have to physically say, yes, I want to keep paying for this. And if you don't, it just goes away. Like they should not be charging your card because you got a free gift. That would be really insulting. And I'm pretty positive that's not the way it works. Chappy Boss, by the way, thank you again for the evening. Let's read your comment. I just saw the money, but I didn't mention this. What's up, disciples? Let's get this channel skyrocketed. Sub. Yeah, thank you very much. If he can get 110K on a Go Scam Me account, I know what you mean by that. The he comment. Now I was trying to figure that out. If a certain person by the name of Dylan can get 110,000 on a GoFundMe or a scam account, then whatever. So thank you so much. You have a big Ric Flair spamming below. Woo! Ric Flair. Oh my God, Ric Flair. Chappie Boss and I have a thing with the Ric Flair thing. By the way, Chappie, today I came a ball hair away from buying a Raiders hat for you today, but I didn't do it. I held off, but I almost did just for you. But I thought, man, I can't betray my teams. I'm a Seattle guy all the way around. I've already bought a Yankees hat. Can I also buy a Raiders hat? Anyways, what else do we got in the comments? Yeah, after hours chat. So by the way, after we're done with this show and we close it up and I finish this drink that I'm working on diligently, I will go to my Discord channel. That Discord channel is free. And there's a channel in voice called After Dark. I think that's what it's called. And I will be there hanging out with a few drinks and a little loose lip sync ship kind of thing. And we'll talk and bullshit until we grow tired of each other. And then we'll move on. Now, let's see. I'm looking for comments.
Oh, Chappie again.
Chappie again. Did I already cover Leah's? Did I cover this one? God, I can't even remember what the fuck I'm doing. Thank you. So I don't even know what I'm doing at this point. Thank you so much. What else do we got? Which makes it complete. Chappie, another gift. Thank you so much. You guys are amazing. This helps the channel a lot. Again, it's almost a joke, but it's not a joke. Here's the thing. I kid you not. When I quote unquote retired and started to do YouTube, I started on TikTok. And TikTok, I would go live. I would spend all week long working on TikTok videos, and I would get done with the live, and they'd be like, congratulations, you made 50 cents. And my wife said, yeah, you're going to need to go back to work because you need to get a real job. And I'm like, this is my job. And she's like, yeah, 50 cents is not going to pay the bills. And I'm like, I get it, but you got to give it time. Well, eventually we moved off of TikTok and we moved to YouTube, and things are much, much better because I'm a long form kind of guy. And I was getting in trouble at TikTok all the time for not using words like unaliving and I can't do it. We will talk about murder when it comes to it because we're allowed to on YouTube. YouTube allows those things. As long as we do it respectfully and we don't do gratuitous violence and those kind of things, we can say so-and-so murdered so-and-so, and we can do it all day long. And we can even have advertisers put commercials on it, and they're okay with it because some advertisers realize we're fucking adults and we can actually drop the F-bomb from time to time as well. All right, so what else? Zeman, not to be confused with Demon. Yeah, Zeman's a good dude. I don't think Zeman is even close to a demon. Let's not even go there. By the way, though, Josh Zeman, by the way, just a shout out for Josh. Josh Zeman does have a YouTube channel that is growing fast. It's called Sinister with Josh Zeman. So make sure to check that out if you haven't done so. I was hoping to be able to promote that on our interview when we're together, but again, things got postponed. He's super busy. He's on tour from a new documentary he's got out in theaters.
And if you do check it out, make sure to tell him that Lee sent you.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's say, hey, I just subscribed to your channel because I heard about you on Devil's Advocates. That'll remind him that, oh yeah, I got to get with that guy and do that interview. So, looking through the comments, Chappie, I don't know if I caught this one. You dropped several dimes on me tonight. Thank you so much. Go Raiders. I was so close, man. I was so close. It was just like this. It was a black cat with the black logo, and I was like, that looks pretty slick. And you know, with freaking Pete Carroll as the coach, I can almost get behind that. I can almost get behind that. And of course, you know, you've got our old quarterback as well. I never really was a super fan of his, but anyways, that's another whole other story. Everybody seemed to like him though.
Here he goes again.
Well, it's not Australian Prime Minister. Okay, I don't know. I may have missed that one. Not Prime Minister. I see. What else? Jay Ray's talking about the Dylan situation. We'll pass that just because it's a little sketchy. Everybody owns a Raiders hat, old school for years. Good play, year or not. Yeah, you know, the Raiders hat was almost just a statement of being a little bit of a rebel, right? They had a in the 80s, they had that decade of freaking breaking people's arms and stomping on people and just being absolute assholes, and it got them a reputation as being a bunch of badasses. They're practically a gang. Their fans are practically a gang. It's got a whole culture. You don't even have to watch a single Raider fan, and you're just cool wearing Raider gear because it's just a fucking thing. So I get it. Wait till I tell you my live conversation with Ashley B from the UCC shootings in 2015 in Roseburg when I was on scene. Oh my gosh, did you do that? Wow, you got Banfield. Is that what is you? And you were on a conversation. Wow, that's very cool. I would love to hear that. I would love to hear about that. What else do we got? I'm going to tease a little bit the new case that I'm looking into, but I already told you a little bit. Have you heard of the analysis of the 1112 King Road 320 and 330 on 1113? It's insane. Sound like a cult following. I have seen a little bit. One, you know, of course, I shy very, very much away from isolated audios, videos. Here's what you just heard. Watch this. And I'm nervous about it, but that doesn't mean I don't watch all of those kind of things. But so yes, watched. No, not ready to comment. And I know you're probably like, dude, shit, or get off the pot. Say something about these things. Well, it's hard. I really gotta burr up my butt about isolated videos. There were some videos and audios that came out early in the Idaho 4 case, by the way, that turned out to be completely fabricated by people who are wanting to stir up shit. Fabricated. And I don't want to be one of those guys who falls for something. Oh, look, you hear this being said, and they're like, yeah, that was completely made up by a YouTuber who thought they'd stir up shit. Because a lot of people are doing that. And so I'm just super careful. Lee, have Birdie as a guest here. We've never tried that before. Because Birdie has, well, I was going to say Birdie has 10 times the audience as me. He does not. Birdie has well over twice the audience of me. But still, he's got the audience, so I haven't really had him on as my guest, but I could try that sometime. I'm sure he'd be willing to do it. In fact, when Birdie comes on to do the live questions and answers with John Ray, I think that's how it's going to be done. I think I'm going to be the one broadcasting it. Birdie's going to tell his followers that he's on my show that night as a guest, and we're going to do that. So that's going to happen, I think, that way. Ashley should be Banfield. Should be Banfield. Ha ha. I get it. All right, I'm looking through the comments. Oh, I'm almost caught up. You talk about your butt more than any creator I know. I talk about my butt? Robin, did I talk about my butt tonight? Or did I just say my ass a lot? Maybe I'm trying to figure out what the hell she. Jay Ray, you talk about your butt more than any creator I know. I don't know. Did I talk about my butt tonight? Fuck. I don't even know what the hell's going on there.
I don't know.
All right, fair enough. All right, on screen, I want to show you a few things. This is the new case that I'm kind of interested in. Hopefully this will load with some highlights in a moment. It's still spinning. You should see some yellow highlights come on here. Come on. No whammies. God, I have a lot of old, outdated pop culture references. Come on. All right, well, we're not getting the highlights yet, but it's still spinning. There we go. There are the highlights. Thank God that took forever. Kentucky judge killed in his chambers, accused of trading sexual favors for influence at wild parties. There was some surveillance footage. Funny enough, when the video went away as soon as the highlights came on. Can a brother cannot get the two at the same time? Like, there's the video. I don't have the audio for you. I could play the audio. I think actually this was silent. I think they had this muted out. I'm going to get past the commercial and just show you a few things that I thought were super interesting. Those of you who haven't seen it, this is the sheriff coming in. There's other staffers that are in here. There's the judge, and they blocked it again. Apparently, you know what it is? I think it's one of those digital rights management. They know that I'm streaming it via another service, and they're like, yeah, we're not going to let you play our video. So screw you guys. I could go find it on YouTube and play it. But these a-holes apparently, I think, want to block me from streaming their shit. So we won't show the video. Bottom line is, there's a moment in this case that I thought was super interesting, which is that the sheriff ends up having a private conversation. Apparently the sheriff and the judge had gone to lunch together earlier that day. Again, allegations were, all right. So allegations were the judge was already being put on trial. Sorry, not the judge. a deputy working under the sheriff. So the sheriff ultimately shoots, follow this, the sheriff shoots the judge dead in his chambers on camera. Everybody can see it if you want to go see that. Shoots him dead in his chambers. After he kicks everybody out of the office, they have a discussion. In the middle of that discussion, he stands up, pulls out a gun. The guy cowers behind his desk, the judge, and he shoots and kills the judge. Now, before you think the judge is an innocent guy, you have to understand what was going on. Earlier, the deputy working for that sheriff had been brought into court because a woman claimed that she was sodomized in that judge's chamber by the deputy with and this was a thing that they would take women inmates and they would basically let them cut deals for lesser time. Literally blow the judge, get a discount on your time served. Do something with this jailer and you can get discount. Jailers would literally, according to what the story has, jailers would literally check out women like library books and take them home for the night, letting them out of the prison to go home with them for the night and do party and whatever they want to, and then bring them back to jail the next day. It was a whole ring being run. And apparently this sheriff and somehow was involved with it. But the crazy moment came, from what I understand, is when, as they're sitting there one-on-one having a discussion after everybody's been kicked out, the sheriff's going through his phone, and you could tell, in my opinion, you can tell he's pretty hot. He's going through his phone and he's typing stuff up, and he makes a phone call. He FaceTimes with somebody. He makes a phone call. He's trying to make a phone call. And it turns out, from what investigators have said, he was calling his own teen daughter, who didn't answer. Then he asks for the judge to give him his phone. The judge flips his phone to the sheriff. The sheriff pulls it up, starts typing in numbers, and calls his daughter from the sheriff's phone, and his daughter answers, it looks like. And then he gets up, he pulls out a gun, and he kills the judge right there in the chambers. So did he find out that the judge was involved with his daughter? Because that is a crazy story. What's going on in that case is absolutely nuts. It potentially has corruption going all the way up past the judge, maybe even higher than that. How many jailers were involved? How much was the sheriff involved? The sheriff, by the way, after the shooting, on camera for an hour, was terrified that he was going to be killed by his own police department. He's like, "You guys are going to kill me. You guys are going to kill me. Come on, like, don't take me to this room. I know you're going to kill me." He's terrified. Is that a show, as some people said, or is there such a big freaking thing going on that he was silencing the judge so the judge wouldn't talk in a case? Whatever you say, DA pissed himself a little bit when I was like, oh my God, this story has police corruption and political corruption written all over it. There's no way in hell I'm not all over that story. So I'm going to be watching it, whether you guys watch it or not. There's the judge on that side. That's District Judge Kevin Mullins. And there's the sheriff that shot him, Sean Mickey Steins. That's Sean Steins, but he goes by Mickey, I guess. And so that's the story. Here again is a screenshot you can see of Sheriff Steins going through both their phones. He's got his phone on one hand, in his right hand he's got the judge's phone on his left. After he finds whatever he wants or makes a phone call from the judge's phone, he stands up, pulls out his gun, and he shoots the judge right there. There he's being interrogated by one of his own guys after his arrest. Crazy story. And there's a court appearance coming up. So this is, by the way, another article I was going to talk about, but it's long. We're going long. Here's a story about the former inmate claims the murdered judge was involved in sex parties. She talks about she's seen sex tapes where the judge is in there and he's having sex with different inmates. Jailers are having sex with inmates. The whole thing is nutbaggish. It's just something super interesting. And if you want to click on my website, at Sean Mickey Steins. If you take a time from my slow ass website, I don't know why it's so slow. I'm probably going to have to overhaul this thing. Here is the start of that. So I got some court dates or some dates that I'm already loading. I like to do a timeline for people to get up to speed. There's some links. You can watch the shooting. You can watch some court appearance when the families got to watch. Unfortunately, their family were being shot and killed by this man, and there's some weeping in the courtroom. That's a little disturbing. Here's the sheriff and his daughter. Interesting enough. This, but interesting enough, I was going to show you. Here is Sheriff Steins and the daughter in question lip syncing to the song "I Shot the Sheriff." How fucking crazy is that shit? That's hilarious. They're literally singing "I Shot the Sheriff" in his squad car, and then he goes and kills the judge. So this story, nutbaggish, and keep it on your radar because I think that's going to be a lot nuts. All right. I think I'm ready for the After Dark party. I'm feeling pretty good. Do you guys have any questions, comments, concerns? Did I miss anybody that dropped me some love or here, Robin, while I was ranting?
Nope. We're good. We're all caught up.
Okay. Any other comments, questions, or concerns on either of the cases? Idaho 4, Luigi Manjone, Rex Heuermann, or freaking Mickey Stein's just coming up to, like Sean Stein's. Anything like that? Festive is giving the link, it looks like, to our Discord channel. Make sure if you're in Discord, Discord's not super intuitive for a lot of people. So if you're in Discord, there's a lot of channels. My mods and my minions, I have a group of people who help me behind the scenes. They call themselves the minions. They've redesigned our entire Discord. We've got 1 million channels so that you can subscribe. You can go into Discord and you can subscribe to only the topics you want. So if there's only a certain case that you want, or if you only want legal breakdowns, or if you only want notifications of my new videos, or if you only want the After Dark party, you can subscribe to that channel and get notified when we do those things.
And please hit the like, subscribe to the channel. We're trying to hit 10K by the end of the year here, folks. So help us along.
Yes, very much. And I want to share with you one more thing. This is my merchandise, by the way. I only have limited quantities left, but I have this pullover hoodie. I've got a zipper hoodie version of this. I've also got a ladies V-neck tee that doesn't have the writing down the arm because there is no arm on the V-neck ladies tee. But anyways, that merchandise I got so that I could wear it to CrimeCon. I'm leaving for CrimeCon next week. If you want to get this sweater, pullover, whatever, to support the channel, you can get that on my website at devilsadvocates.com shop. And you can get a copy of that as well. It's up. I can just go to the top. I think I can just go to the top. But anyways, there's a little, you can get there by going to this little shopping cart icon. That's one way to go, or you can go to devilsadvocates.info/shop. Anyways, if you want to get a copy, here's some pre-looks of what the ladies' tee looks like, the zipper pullover, or the whatever. Those are going out this week. And yeah, anything, I think that's it. I think that's it, Robin. What do you think?
I think we're good.
All right. Thank you all for coming to this Friday night show where things are a little bit loose and carefree. And I'm going to log out now and say goodbye. Robin and I will hang out behind stage for just a little bit while we're making sure that the stream all shuts down. Because one time I tried to shut the stream down and we stayed live for quite a while. And Robin was doing a one-person show while I was gone. That was kind of embarrassing for me. Great for her, but embarrassing for me. And then after we get shut down and done, I will come over to Discord and we'll hang out and chit-chat a little bit. And have a few drinks. Hopefully you have a few drinks with me. All right. Take it easy, everyone, and have a good night. Good weekend.